Based on the team's suggestions, the revised introduction sharpens the hook, grounds the setting, deepens character presence, heightens suspense, and smooths the call to action. It maintains the original's emotional core while enhancing specificity, pacing, and audience connection for a 10-chapter story. The scent of fresh pine from our Christmas tree still lingered in the air that December morning, a cruel reminder of the family I thought I had. I'd built a fortune from nothing, millions in the bank, a mansion that echoed with memories of laughter. But as I sat at a dining table set for 10, staring at empty chairs, the truth crashed over me like a tidal wave. It was all a facade. My wife, my children, their warm smiles and whispered "I love yous." They were actors in a play, their eyes fixed on my inheritance, not me. I'd poured my life into them, every late night, every sacrifice, believing I was building a legacy for us. But that morning, as frost coated the windows, I overheard my daughter's voice through the study door, cold and calculating. "Once he's gone, we'll have it all." My heart stopped. Gone? From the man who gave them everything. My wife's silence in that moment, her lack of protest, cut deeper than any words. How had I missed it? The fleeting glance my son avoided at dinner, the way my wife's hand lingered, too long on my checkbook. Was I so desperate for their love that I ignored the truth staring me in the face? That morning I made a choice, one that would unravel the lies and change our family forever. But what I found in the ashes of that betrayal was worth more than all my millions. This is my story, a raw confession of wealth that couldn't buy loyalty, and a family I never truly knew. If you've ever felt the sting of a love that wasn't real, join me as I uncover the deception, the greed, and the unexpected light that broke through. Hit that like button, share your own story in the comments, and subscribe. Let's face these truths together, because I can't do this alone. I will execute the steps one by one, rewriting each chapter in English in the style of Gillian Flynn, with approximately 500 words per chapter, maintaining her dark, psychological, and emotionally raw tone. Each chapter will be presented with its title and text, wrapped in the required artifact tag. I'll start with Chapter 1 and proceed sequentially, ensuring the narrative remains gripping, introspective, and suspenseful, with vivid sensory details and biting irony characteristic of Flynn's work. The dining room was a mausoleum, the clink of silver forks against untouched china ringing like a funeral bell. The Christmas tree's pine scent stung my nose, a cruel joke against the silence that swallowed my mansion. I'd clawed my way to millions, built an empire to cradle my family, Ellen, Lila, Caleb, in a cocoon of wealth. But that December morning, the truth slithered out. I was alone, a king presiding over a court of ghosts. I woke to a house that held its breath, the usual holiday clamor of laughter and clinking glasses gone, replaced by a void that pressed against my ribs. Ellen's coat wasn't on the rack. Her coffee cup sat cold on the counter, a smudge of red lipstick mocking me like a kiss from a stranger. Lila's text buzzed my phone. "Merry Christmas, Dad." But her BMW's tire tracks were already fading in the snow outside, a fleeting scar on my perfect lawn. I stood at the dining table, set for 10, each empty chair a blade twisting in my gut. My family, my legacy, my everything. Where were they? A memory sliced through. Last Christmas, Lila smiled tight as a drum, her hand grazing Ellen's under the table, a secret I'd dismissed as nothing. Now it burned. I poured a whiskey, the amber liquid searing my throat sharper than the frost clawing the windows. My hands shook, betraying the calm I'd faked for decades. Caleb's call vibrated my phone, then cut off, leaving a voicemail I couldn't bring myself to play. What could he say? That he was sorry? That he'd explain? Or was it another lie, another brick in the wall they'd built around my heart? I sank into a chair, the weight of their absence crushing me. I'd given them everything: private schools, European vacations, a mansion that screamed success. I'd worked nights, bled for deals, all to see their faces light up. But now the silence screamed louder. They didn't want me. They wanted my money, my name, the empire I'd thought was ours. The whiskey burned again, and I stared at the tree, its lights blinking like a heartbeat I couldn't feel. Was this my fault? Had I built a cage instead of a home? Or had they always been waiting, biding their time, for the moment I'd be gone? I gripped the glass, the cold biting my fingers. Something was coming, something worse than this emptiness. I could feel it, a shadow creeping closer, and as the snow fell outside, burying the world in white, I wondered, had I ever really known them at all? I wasn't supposed to hear it, but Lila's voice cut through the study door like a scalpel, sharp and cold. "When he's gone, we'll be free." The words hung in the air, a guillotine dropping on my life. My world didn't just crack, it shattered, jagged pieces slicing into every hope I'd clung to. My daughter, my flesh, plotting my end. And Ellen, my wife of 20 years, her silence a betrayal deeper than any scream. I stood frozen outside the study, my pulse a drumbeat in my ears, drowning out the Christmas carols still playing faintly from the living room. I'd wandered there, chasing whispers I couldn't place, a moth drawn to the flame of my own destruction. My hand gripped the doorknob, slick with sweat, every nerve screaming to burst in, to demand answers, but my feet wouldn't move. What do you say when your family carves you up like a holiday roast? I backed away, the floor creaking under me, a traitor giving me away. Memories swarmed like wasps. Ellen's late-night calls, her voice low, brushing off my questions with a smile. Lila's sudden curiosity about my will, her eyes too bright, too hungry. Had it always been there, that greed masked by their I love yous? I stumbled to my office, locking the door, the walls pressing in like a coffin. My breath came in gasps, each one a fight against the truth clawing my chest. Caleb's voicemail burned in my pocket, his stuttering, "Dad, I need to talk." Then silence. Was he in on it, my quiet son, or was he my last thread of hope? I couldn't listen, not yet. The possibility of his betrayal was a weight I wasn't ready to carry. I yanked open a drawer, old letters spilling out, Ellen's loopy handwriting, Lila's childish scrawl, Caleb's careful print. "We love you, Dad," they'd written year after year. Lies, everyone, the ink now blurring under my tears. I'd built this empire for them, bled for it, thinking it was love they wanted. But this house, this crypt of marble and gold was my prison, and they were the wardens. How had I missed it? The glances I'd ignored, the silences I'd filled, with excuses. Was I that desperate for their affection, that blind to their knives? I sank to the floor, the whiskey from earlier sour in my gut. The study's whispers echoed in my head, Lila's voice a ghost that wouldn't leave. When he's gone. Gone how? An accident? A quiet death they'd mourn for the cameras? The question gnawed, a beast I couldn't outrun. And as the snow fell outside, sealing me in, I realized this wasn't just betrayal, it was a plan, and I was already caught in its teeth. Every memory is a landmine now, each smile a trap I stumbled into blind. I used to think love was the glue that held us, Ellen, Lila, Caleb, me, in this glittering cage of wealth. But that night, as I sat across from them at dinner, I saw the truth. Their love was a performance, and I was the fool who bought the act. I confronted Ellen over the roasted lamb, her eyes glinting like ice under the chandelier's glow. "Where were you this morning?" I asked, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. Her reply was smooth as poison, a practiced lie about a charity brunch, her lips curling just enough to mock me. Lila jumped in, her dad dripping with rehearsed warmth, but her fingers twitched on her napkin, betraying the script. Caleb slouched, his eyes glued to his phone, his silence louder than any confession. The table, once a stage for laughter, was now a battlefield, and I was losing. Later I crept into Ellen's bedroom, the air thick with her perfume, a scent that once meant home but now choked me. In her nightstand I found her diary, its pages a venomous litany of contempt. "He's a means to an end," she wrote. "A vault will crack." My stomach twisted, each word a blade carving out the years I'd spent loving her. A memory slammed into me. Our 20th anniversary, her hand on mine, her touch warm, or so I thought. Now I saw it for what it was. A calculated grip, a leash on my fortune. I lay awake that night, the diary's words searing my brain like a brand. Had I invited this? Had I been so desperate for their love that I'd ignored the cracks? Ellen's late-night whispers, Lila's too perfect smiles, Caleb's averted eyes. I'd built this empire for them, but maybe I'd built a prison instead, one where greed festered in the shadows. The mansion creaked around me, a hollow shell echoing my failure. By dawn, I'd made a vow. I'd test their loyalty, strip away their masks, even if it broke me. Each step would be a shard in my heart, a reminder of the family I'd lost, or maybe never had. I stared at the ceiling, the weight of their lies crushing my chest. Had I loved them too much to see the truth? Or had I always known, deep down, that their affection was a currency bought and sold? I closed my eyes, the question burning. Have you ever loved someone so much you ignored their lies? I did, and it's tearing me apart, piece by bloody piece. The game was just beginning, but I wasn't sure I had the strength to play. I was done being their fool, their meal ticket, their stepping stone. The betrayal had carved me hollow, but it left something sharp in its place. Control. If Ellen, Lila, and Caleb wanted my fortune, they'd dance to my tune now, pawns in a game where I held the board. In the library, with its leather-bound books and flickering fire, I summoned them, my voice steady as I announced a new will. Their faces tightened, masks slipping under the weight of my words, and I savored it, a predator tasting blood. Ellen sat first, her laugh brittle as cracked glass, her wine trembling in her manicured hand. She tilted her head, feigning amusement, but her eyes were knives slicing through me. Lila perched on the sofa's edge, her questions firing like bullets. When? Why? How much? Her composure fracturing, thin ice splintering under a boot. Caleb slouched in the corner, mumbling half-words, his loyalty a shadow I couldn't pin down. Was he with them or me? Or was he just another ghost in this house of lies? I leaned back, my chair creaking, and dropped the bait. A trust fund fat with millions tied to their devotion. The word hung heavy, a dare, and their silence screamed louder than any protest. Alone later, I hunched over my desk, sketching a plan to unravel them. My pen shook, rage and grief warring in my veins. Each line was a blade, cutting deeper into the family I'd thought was mine. I'd make them prove their love, strip them bare, expose the greed festering beneath their smiles. But every stroke felt like a wound to myself, a reminder of the man who'd believed in them. The phone rang, my lawyer's voice grim. Someone was sniffing my accounts, digging into my empire's guts. Ellen? Lila? A stranger? The confirmation twisted my stomach, but it fueled me too. They thought they could outplay me, but I'd built this kingdom from nothing. I knew how to fight. The fire in the library had died to embers, mirroring the cold in my chest. I was the king in this chess game, moving pieces with precision, but every strategy felt like a checkmate against my own heart. What if I was wrong? What if Caleb's mumbles hid regret, not deceit? What if Ellen's laugh was fear, not mockery? I pushed the doubts down, burying them under the weight of their betrayal. This wasn't about love anymore, it was about survival. I'd force their hands, watch their lies crumble, and maybe, just maybe, find a truth worth salvaging. But as the wind howled outside, rattling the mansion's bones, I wondered, was I outwitting them, or just playing myself into a corner I couldn't escape? My family's masks are peeling, but so is my skin. Every truth I uncover rips another piece of me away, and the darkness is swallowing what's left. I'm not sure who's the monster anymore, them for their greed or me for what I'm becoming. I hid cameras in the study, their tiny lenses glinting like spies in the shadows. At 2 a.m., the footage showed Lila, my little girl, rifling through my files with a thief's precision. Her face was all angles, no trace of the kid who'd once begged for bedtime stories. She paused, glanced at the door, and I swear she sensed me watching, a ghost in my own house. I trailed Ellen to a dive bar the next night, the kind of place where the air smells of stale beer and bad choices. She leaned into a stranger, their whispers too intimate, her hand brushing his like a lover's. I stood outside, the neon sign buzzing in my ears, my heart a fist pounding my ribs. Who was he? And why did she look at him like she'd never looked at me? Caleb came to me at dawn, his voice cracked, begging for cash to cover a debt he wouldn't explain. His eyes slid away, dodging mine, a confession in their cowardice. I wanted to shake him, to scream, "What have you done?" Instead, I handed him nothing but silence, Later, in Lila's purse, I found a note, scrawled in black ink. "Stay loyal and you're free." No signature, just a promise that chilled me. Free from what? From me. My father's voice clawed up from memory, grave rough. "Wealth buys envy, not love." I'd laughed him off, young and stupid, but now his words were a noose. I cornered Caleb in the garage, his face pale under the fluorescent light. "Tell me you're not part of this," I said, my voice a blade. He stammered, tripped over denials, then bolted, the door slamming like a gunshot. I stood there, the cold concrete seeping into my bones, and felt the shift. I wasn't just the victim anymore. In the dark, the camera's red lights blinked, unyielding, and I wondered if I'd crossed a line. Was I the villain now, wiring my house like a trap, stalking my wife, breaking my son? The thought gnawed at me, a rat in my skull. I sat in my office, the monitors glowing, their images a gallery of betrayal. What would you do if your family turned against you? I used to think I'd fight, but now I'm not sure I can survive this. The shadows are closing in, and I'm not just hunting answers. I'm hunting myself, and I'm terrified of what I'll find. The email glowed on my screen, a venomous little gift. "They're closer than you think. J.R." My office felt like a coffin, the walls pressing in, the air thick with betrayal. I'd built a fortune to shield my family, but now I was a marionette, strings yanked by someone I couldn't see. J.R. 2 letters that burned like a brand. Who was pulling me apart? And why was I too slow to cut the threads? I followed Ellen. That night, her Mercedes weaving through the city's underbelly to a motel that reeked of stale cigarettes and broken promises. She slipped into room 12, the stranger's shadow waiting, their ritual as familiar as my own heartbeat. I crouched in my car, the cold seeping through my coat, watching their silhouettes dance behind the curtains. Ellen's laugh, sharp and calculated, sliced through the night. Was this her endgame, or was she just another pawn? Lila's voice haunted me, her late-night calls I'd overheard, whispering about a deal. Her tone wasn't the defiant princess I knew. It trembled, laced with fear, like she was caught in a trap she couldn't name. I wanted to shake her, demand answers, but the girl I'd raised was a stranger now, her eyes hiding secrets I'd never unpick. My private investigator called at dawn, his voice gravelly. Ellen was tied to a lawyer, J. Ramsey, a man with a rap sheet longer than my bank statements. J.R. The initials clicked, a lock tumbling open, but the door stayed shut. Caleb was gone. His note, "I'm sorry, Dad," lay crumpled in my fist, the paper soft from my grip. He'd vanished 3 days ago, no calls, no trace, leaving me to drown in questions. Was he running from me or from them? I traced a secret. Account in Lila's name, funds pouring in from nowhere, thousands clean and untraceable like a bribe for her soul. My daughter bought. The thought choked me, bile rising as I stared at the numbers on my laptop. The stranger's silhouette nagged at me, a ghost I couldn't place. I'd seen that slouch before, maybe a boardroom, a bar, a memory buried in the haze of my empire building. Years. Was he J. Ramsey or someone older, someone I'd wronged? The mansion creaked around me, every shadow a threat, every noise a step closer to the noose. I was trapped, my family's web tightening with every move. Ellen's meetings, Lila's, calls, Caleb's absence, they weren't accidents. Someone was orchestrating this, and I was running out of time to find the knife to cut free. I poured another whiskey, the burn my only anchor. J.R. was out there, laughing, and I was dancing to their tune. Who were they? And why did I feel like I'd known them all along? I'm done skulking in the shadows of their lies. If Ellen, Lila, and Caleb want a war, I'll torch the whole damn empire, myself included. The air in the dining room crackles, heavy with the stink of betrayal, as I shove the investigator's report across the table at Ellen. Her face, usually a porcelain mask of control, twists into pale fury, her eyes glinting like broken glass. She doesn't touch the papers, just stares as if she can will them to ash. I want to scream, to shatter her composure, but I wait, letting her squirm. Lila breaks the silence, her voice a venomous wail. You've ruined me, Dad. Everything. I had. Her desperation claws at the air, but it's not grief. It's the panic of a gambler whose bluff's been called. I lean back, arms crossed, watching her unravel. I should feel pity, but all I taste is bitter satisfaction. I froze their accounts this morning, cut the strings to my fortune. Their panic is a dark, twisted balm to the wounds they carved into. Caleb stumbles through the door, his face bruised, a purple welt blooming under his eye. He won't meet my gaze, won't explain where he's been. His silence is a fresh cut, another question I can't answer. Is he theirs or mine? Before I can press, my phone buzzes. The stranger's voice slithers through, low and oily. Back. Off or you're done. No name, no face, just a hiss that chills my blood. I hang up, my hands trembling, the room suddenly too small. Later, in Ellen's study, I find it, a photo tucked in her purse. Me asleep in our bed, my face slack, vulnerable, unaware of the camera's cold eye. The image burns my fingers, a violation so intimate it steals my breath. When was this taken? Why? I stagger to my office, barricading the door with a chair, as if wood can shield me from their hatred. It's a physical weight now, pressing my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. I built this family, this life, and they've turned it into a cage. I sink to the floor, the report crumpled in my fist. I'm fighting for my soul, but the cost is everything. My trust, my love, my sanity. What's left to save? The stranger's threat echoes, Lila's screams linger, and Caleb's bruises haunt me. Ellen's photo is the worst, a reminder that even my sleep wasn't safe. I'm at war, but the enemy is my own blood. The mansion creaks around me, a tomb of my own making, and I wonder if I'll burn with it, or if I already am. The truth is a jagged blade, and it's carving me hollow. My life, my love, my family, it's all a house of cards, and the wind's howling now. I sit in my office, the investigators report, a venomous weight in my hands. Jay Ramsey, the stranger with the snake's smile, isn't some random shadow. He's a conman Ellen hired 10 years ago, a leech she let into our marriage, our bed, our future. The realization doesn't just sting, it flays me, leaving raw, bleeding strips where my heart used to be. Lila's next, collapsing in the living room. Her sobs a performance I've seen too many times. I had no choice, Dad, she wails, but her eyes flicker, darting like a cornered animal's. Lies. I want to believe her, to cradle my little girl. But the girl I loved is gone, replaced by this stranger who'd sell me for a payout. Caleb's confession follows, his voice cracking as he admits Ramsey's blackmail. His gambling debt's a chain around his neck. His shame is real, raw, but it's not enough to bridge the chasm between us. I look at him, my son, and see a stranger staring back. The emails I uncover later are worse, a digital dagger, Ellen and Ramsey plotting to have me declared unfit, to lock me away and split my empire. Each word is a betrayal, a confirmation that every I love you was a script. A memory twists sharp and cruel. Ellen's tears when I proposed, her trembling hands. I'd called it love. Now I see it was calculation, a predator's mask. I drive to a dingy hotel, the kind that smells of stale cigarettes and regret, to face Ramsey. He's waiting, his smirk a blade of its own. You were easy, he says, leaning back, his eyes glinting with triumph. My life, my love, my everything, it was his stage and Ellen was his star. I stumble back to the mansion, the walls mocking me with their opulence. I built this for them, for us, but it's a tomb. Every chandelier and marble floor, a monument to my stupidity. The house of cards has collapsed, each lie a scattered ace. But there's one card still hidden, one secret I haven't found. What is it? What could be worse than this? I pour a whiskey, the burn no match for the fire in my chest. The truth is out, but it's not enough. Something's coming, something final, and I'm not sure I'm ready to face it. I stare at the family portrait above the fireplace, Ellen's smile, Lila's laugh, Caleb's shy grin, and wonder, was any of it ever real? I thought I knew pain, the kind that rips through you like a dull blade, but this is a wound that doesn't bleed, just festers. Betrayal was supposed to be a moment, a sting, not this endless bone-deep ache that's swallowing me whole. I'm standing in my office, the air thick with the stale musk of old cigars and broken promises, and I'm not sure I'll walk out alive. Ellen sits across from me, her face a mask of porcelain, her voice flat as a dead lake. "It was always about the money," she says. No trace of the woman I married, the one who laughed at my bad jokes and held my hand through fevers. She's a stranger now, a thief who wore my wife's skin for 20 years. Lila's on the couch, sobbing, her tears a Broadway act I can't buy anymore. "I didn't mean it, Daddy," she chokes, but her eyes flicker, calculating like she's waiting for a cue. Caleb leans against the wall, his arms crossed, his silence louder than any confession. He's with me, maybe, but the doubt in his hunched shoulders screams he's hedging his bets. I clutch Ramsey's note, its words, "You lost before you started, burning my palm." He's gone, vanished into the night like smoke, leaving me with nothing but this taunt and a forged clause in my will. I found it last night buried in fine print, a legal knife giving Ellen my empire, my blood, my everything, my lawyers. Voice shook when he confirmed it, his apologies useless against the truth. They'd planned to bury me long before I stopped breathing, my mother's warning echoes, a ghost from decades past. "Trust sparingly, son." I laughed it off, young and drunk on love, but now it's a noose around my neck. I ignored her, built this life on sand, and now it's crumbling. I collapse into my chair, the weight of their greed pressing my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. My heart stutters, not from age, but from the realization that I've been a fool, a mark, a man who loved shadows instead of people. The room spins, their faces blurring. Ellen's cold stare, Lila's crocodile tears, Caleb's wavering loyalty. I've lost them, lost myself, lost the empire I thought was my legacy. But there's one play left, one final move to claw back what's mine, even if it's just my soul. My hand trembles as I reach for the phone, my mind racing with a plan. I'm not sure I'm strong enough to pull off. Can I do this? Can I burn it all down and walk away? Or will this last cut be the one that finally breaks me? The fire in my cabin spits embers, each one a tiny funeral for the life I thought I had. I've lost it all. Millions, mansion, the family I poured my soul into. But in the wreckage I found something sharper, something that can't be bought or broken. Me. The real me. Not the fool who believed love could be paid for with a platinum card. I rewrote my will last week, my pen slashing through decades of delusion. My fortune, every cent, now belongs to a children's hospital, to kids who'll never know the weight of my name. Ellen, Lila, Caleb, they're erased, their greed. A footnote I won't read again. Ellen left first, her suitcase wheels grinding against the marble floor. Her final glance pure ice, no trace of the woman I'd vowed to love forever. I didn't flinch. I'd seen her truth, and it was uglier than I'd ever imagined. Lila's calls came like a storm, her voicemails piling up, each one a performance of tears I no longer believed. I blocked her number, her voice fading like a radio signal lost in the woods. She'd played me too long, her daddy a script written for my checkbook. But Caleb, God, Caleb stayed. He stood in the doorway, his "I'm sorry" so quiet. It barely reached me, yet it was the first honest thing I'd heard in years. His eyes held something new, shame maybe, or a flicker of the boy I'd raised. I don't trust it, not yet, but it's a crack in the wall between us. The mansion's gone, sold to some tech bro who'll never know it's ghosts. I bought this cabin, a splintered shack in the woods, where the air smells of earth, not lies. Here, I started writing, not for revenge, though the thought crossed my mind, bitter and tempting. No, I wrote to free myself, to claw out the truth and lay it bare. I wrote to warn you, wealth is a trap, a shiny cage that draws vultures, not love. I learned it the hard way, and the scars still sting. By the fire I see it now, clear as the flames. Love isn't something you buy. It's built, brick by painful brick, starting with yourself. I'm learning that, one shaky step at a time. This is my confession, my warning, my rebirth from ashes I thought would bury me. If betrayal's carved its mark on you, if you've ever had to rebuild from nothing, hit that like button, share your scars in the comments, and subscribe. We're not alone in this, you and I. We're survivors, piecing ourselves back together, Let's do it side by side, because no one should face the dark alone.